It's Shannon.
Hello, and welcome to Keeping It Real with Shannon Live.
It's Shannon.
Because you don't know how it's going to turn out.
It's Shannon. It's Shannon.
My kids empowered me to get out.
What's going on with this remote learning in the midst of COVID?
Working for different elected officials, learning and understanding how to put the community first.
Hello, and welcome to Keeping It Real with Shannon. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Hello, ladies. How are you?
Good, and you?
Well, you're looking all excited and everything. That must be Allison. Well, as you know, before we start the show tonight is hot topics, and we have some hot topics to discuss. But before we do that, we just want to congratulate all the mothers because Sunday upcoming is Mother's Day. So I want to congratulate myself for doing a good job in raising my child. And I want to congratulate all the other mothers who have done such a good job in raising their kids. But we still appreciate the daddies as well. So happy Mother's Day to everyone. And thank you for joining us tonight. The first hot topic we want to talk about, you know, there's still this ongoing crisis about the mental health problem. And it's not getting any better. It seems to be getting worse. And as you know, we just had the case with the Neely case of the young man who was on the train, who was homeless and had mental issues, and what happened with the retired Marine. Now, I don't have a problem, you know, because I think he should be arrested and, you know, paid for what he did, because he should have known that the chokehold was a deadly situation. But the crisis that's going on, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, what happens when you know your family member is having this issue, is out there homeless, you know, in the streets and stuff like that. What is being done through all of this time before something does happen? Because then it looks like nothing is going on. And then when it happened, then all of a sudden now we're smelling the greenbacks.
Well,
I mean, it's hard.
I'll jump in that, because sometimes it's easier said than done. You know,
Right.
when something comes on the news, we see the first couple of clips, few minutes, few seconds of what's really going on. Then we become judgmental of what could have, would have, should have happened, and who, if anyone knew of an issue and a problem, why didn't they do something about it? We already know, we have learned that part of his deep depression stemmed back when his mom was murdered. So he's been struggling with that. Now, to really get people help for mental issue, they have to really be a willing participant,
Right.
to really accept that they have a problem, you know, because no matter what you do, you cannot make anyone seek medical attention. And being that he's a person of color, how much mental illness was out there? How much did the parents know?
Right.
We struggle about these things today because we have,
Right.
it's like a stigma in the Black and brown community, right?
Absolutely.
Psychiatrist, doctor, and then they want to start pumping you with medication or institutionalizing you.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that stem around that. It's easy to put the point, blame or question the family. And I get you, Lottie. I understand people want to come up with the woodwork. Oh yeah, this is an issue, this is an issue. And I agree. How long, was there any kind of initiation of trying to get help? That's the part that we don't see. So it's
Right.
easy for us to really question what was done and what wasn't done and what should have been done.
Right.
But see, that's what I'm saying. That's one of the issues, because when this happens like this, why don't we ever hear, like, okay, the parent, well, we tried to do this, we tried to get help, they wouldn't give us any help. Okay, we went to this agency, they wouldn't give us any help. You know, why is anything never said about what you tried to do?
We don't know to what extent that had happened.
Right.
That's my point. I
But
just
here's the
said we
thing.
need to hear that. We need
But
to
here's
hear
the
that.
thing.
You don't need to really hear anything, because just like you can't put everything as news media. We're already dealing with a whole
Right.
situation as far as the charges and things like that, what they're going to do with the whole case. Okay,
Right.
it's easy to say, I want to know this, I want to know that, I want to know this. These things have been discussed probably behind doors of what cases, and really, who are we really to blame?
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to
We're not
understand
trying
that.
to, I wouldn't try to put the blame on anyone, because I wouldn't be blaming anyone and not really judge anyone. I'm still asking the same question. Why don't we hear what tried to take place? In other words, if my child was out there like that, when then something happened, I would be telling them, look, I tried to get help. I went to the Department of Mental Health. They would, I would be saying what I did.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, again, you don't want to compromise the case neither, because you can't be saying but so much stuff in the public. So because
it can be used against you.
Exactly. Some things they refrain from you to put out in the public to at least build a case. And besides, anyway, that doesn't justify the act anyway.
Right. Let's just say it wasn't a case, right? At the end of the day, the news media doesn't really honestly portray us in a decent light when it comes to things like this. You know what I mean? So who's to say that his mother didn't, in an interview, didn't say, hey, listen, we've went through these specific channels. We tried X, Y, and Z. We're in treatment. You know what I mean? And this was just something that happened. You know what I mean?
Allison, it wouldn't be his
mother. The father was on speaking.
Right, because the father, sorry. But did you know the history with his mother?
His mother was murdered.
Right,
yes.
but he
was murdered.
Yeah, but then when he was 14, he wanted to go and say goodbye on his way to school, and the boyfriend went a letter. So that's been on his mind because his mother was already probably deceased. Dead. Right, that's right for him. And sometimes we talk about PTSD and post-traumatic trauma, and these things you live beyond these things, and sometimes out of control. You're young, maybe the family who knows that they knew where was services offered to him. They didn't know where to go. These are a lot of things that we talking about 15 years ago. He's 30.
Right.
He was
Did
30.
we just tell him to walk it off? Deal with it at the funeral, cry your tears and let it go. When she's buried, she's gone. You got to understand, in our community, we don't really seeking help for mental health is not something that we've done. And historically, even let's date back to slavery. You know what I mean? Black people were thought of, we don't feel pain, we can deal with things of a certain nature. I feel like every Black person on Juneteenth should get a voucher for therapy. Okay, because at the end of the day, it's not just the memory of the things that you remember that you see, it's also the emotional memory from things that you probably don't remember that happened in your childhood or you repressed. And there are things that may trigger you that you're not even aware of, and that's how things happen. You know what I mean? So it's when it comes to mental health in our community, it really needs to be at the forefront of every conversation when it comes to medical care.
And then some people need closure, right? And then when you go to mental health facilities, it gets registered. If you use an insurance, it gets registered in database, right?
Right.
A lot of jobs in companies, they may access on the application. So it's against you in some way that you don't, even just bereavement is questionable, right?
Right.
When you have people that may not be Black and brown, they would use cash because they have the cash and the means to seek services for the kids, right?
So they know.
So when you go now checking the database, you're not going to show anybody in the system. I've seen people come through for jobs, right? And then you question, oh, but you saw counsel for that. Yeah, but my mom passed away. Or I had a loved one, or I lost something, or they went through some kind of So why are they being penalized for that later on because they have used a service?
Right.
Okay, but I'm still going back to the same thing I said before. If the mental health issue is a real crisis, but you still do not hear the loud noise talking about if they don't get services or we tried to get services, this agency is not working. Why is there not such an outcry about this? Because right now, every time when something happens, they say the person has mental illness. Every time now, if somebody does something, shoots up, whatever, they got mental illness. So if it's that big a crisis, why is there not an outcry?
But because it's not an outcry for us. We don't believe in that.
It's not new.
It'll never be an outcry. Mental health.
No, we're at the stage now that we believe there's a
now we're at the stage.
Not just today. It's been in the works for a long time.
Let me ask you a question.
Make a lot of noise about it.
Listen,
we should.
Let me ask you a question.
You have a person in your family that has the help, because if somebody in your family has that kind of crisis and out on the street like that, homeless and need food or whatever, and they acting up, like, okay, so what is the family now doing to try to get that help?
They can't do anything if that person is unwilling.
Exactly.
Unless that person is a danger to himself
or to others.
and or the people,
Mhm.
then they can't force him to get help. They
And
can't.
would you want to compromise your family? And I mean, and I'm not being biased to say, okay, leave your family out there, but will you bring a family member who may be having a
Unstable.
crisis, and you have
Mhm.
kids in the house,
Children.
your safety, and they become unpredictable? You don't know they're on
Right.
medication, if they have a tolerance level of medication, or
Right.
if they are on medication, which many of them really are not, because you don't really know.
Mhm.
But
Right.
is it coupled with substance abuse?
Well, I know you're not
aside?
going to bring the person in the house if they have mental issues.
No, but
when
what
you-
I'm saying is
you
that
think they're that dangerous. You're not going to
yes,
bring
but what
someone
I'm
in the house
saying is
like
that
that. I'm
sometimes
saying what to do, what we need to do. You know, they're out there on the street and stuff like that.
Mhm.
To find some place for them to go to get the help, because eventually you know them out there on the street, something is gonna happen. It's bound to happen.
But Lonnie, how much can you do?
People don't even want you.
How much
People
can
don't even want you to come up close on them now.
Lonnie,
Without
how much can
saying
you do
turn
for
around being
somebody?
nasty to the people.
How much can you do for somebody legally that's of age?
Right. You can lead a horse to water. You can't make him drink.
Exactly. How much can you do?
You
You
can't.
gotta look at the people who are diagnosed with mental illness, who's not taking medication.
Right.
That's coupled medication with substance abuse and other things that make it less effective. So
Right.
for a lot of things out there, it's easy for people to sit back and say, yeah, I agree with you. Everything that happens, mental, we all got something mental going on.
Right.
We all do. Right?
We all
But
do.
I only buy that from the act of it, not the excuse that they put for the people doing it. I don't buy
Right.
that everything is mental health. I don't look at it that way. And
Right.
and people may fit the different. That's fine. But the act of the nature of what they're doing is one thing. But if you got programs and people are young, that's one thing. When they're underage, you have a little more control of them. But once they become age and it's out of your control, what can you do?
What can you do?
Well, maybe you can't do anything. I mean, I guess I'm just like if I feel like I'm gonna do everything. If that's my child out there, I'm
Right.
gonna try to do everything I can do.
Well, who's to say they
help
didn't?
them. But
Right.
I wouldn't want to see my child out there on the street homeless and I'm sitting in my house with
But
food and
say
all of
that
that
you-
kind of
Who's
stuff.
to say that
And
that's
then
what
soon as
occurred?
something happened, then I'm talking about all of this other stuff and stuff like that. That's what I'm saying. That's
What
what
I'm
I'm
saying.
having a problem with.
Right.
And
But
I'm
who
not
said that
saying
the
what
family
needs to
didn't?
be and what not, because each family has to do what they have to do. Okay,
Right.
we're gonna take a quick break and come right back.
It's Shannon. It's Shannon.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Hi, we're back. Thanks for joining us. I want to say hello to Kathleen and Carolyn for joining us tonight on the show. Thank you. Now we wanted to get your opinion on the asylum seekers that's coming every day by the hundreds and the thousands. And what do you think is going to end up eventually happening now? Because there's nowhere to put them, and the mayor wants to make deals to go to other counties, but now they on TV already said that they ain't coming there. And so I'm just trying to figure out, well, if everybody else can say we can't take no people or we're not taking any more people, what is it that our mayor can't say that? I mean, you don't have anywhere to put all of these people. Now it's cutting into the people that you already have into the shelter. So now they will never get out of the shelter.
Right.
So, and you keep having people to come. I mean, if the other governors can stand on TV and sit up there and say, no, they're not coming here, we're going to send them to you. Rockland County, Orange County already said,
No, thank you.
we're not just gonna send anybody here. We don't know where they killers or whatever. Like, well, what is it that we can't say? Okay, we have taken in enough of people. We can't take anymore because now it's gonna start becoming a danger to us now. That's here. I don't have a problem helping anyone because we do that here. That's how New Yorkers are. But you don't even have space for the people that's here. We got people laying on the street, on my corner, around the corner, whatever. They don't even have somewhere to stay. And then when the asylum seekers come, they get, some of them already got apartments and places to stay and everything already. But our people that's here, they can't even get places or get out of the shelter or whatever. So, well, what am I missing here? You know, I'm not trying to be like I don't care about anybody, but like I care about my people that's already here, that's working and trying to get an apartment and can't get an apartment.
Well, Lottie, your question is multifold. Okay, if you want to speak about the asylum seekers, yes, granted, there should be a limit. We should have a cap of what type of cap, not just to receive the people, individuals and families that are coming, also what type of services are that they're receiving. Apparently, they have been promised to jobs. I mean, sometimes when you hear them on the news, they say we will be working, we could do this, we could do that. So I'm not quite sure I'm privy to all the layouts and what was offered to them. And back to your question in terms of those that are in shelter. A lot of people in the shelter because they want to be in the shelter. And I'm going to say that with a heavy heart. And I'm going to tell you, because a lot of people in shelters, they get a check, they get vouchers. They can, sometimes you're trying to bring them back into the community. It doesn't work out. A lot of people, and then you have a lot of people who's in the shelter because they may have had a fire, they may have be a domestic issue or specialized shelter. So it's a catch-22 of why people are in the shelter, right?
Hey, Vanessa, can I add something to your wisdom there? I just wanted to add that a lot of working families are also in the shelter.
That's what I'm saying. You have and you have right.
Not only that, too, a lot of people who just can't afford to find apartments in New York because let me tell you something, my neighborhood, for one, Bed-Stuy has been gentrified to the point where the original, people who lived here can't even afford the neighborhood that we lived in.
And
you know what I mean? The studio.
They're moving people out into FEMA camps, and I understand it. But I'm talking about from the landlord's point of view, of trying to bring people out of the shelter and reintroduce them back to the community. It doesn't work, unfortunately, and it doesn't really make
for certain people. Yes,
for certain people, it doesn't make sense to me because you have an income. Would you not rather have your own place than being in a shelter? And
I mean, when you think about it too, some people just have never had their own. So whether they have their own place, some people just don't know how to take care of it, or they don't. That mindset is different.
But you know what the thing is about that too? That's part of that, because within a shelter, if they have an income, the city should take part of that income to pay for that space in the shelter. Because if you guys, they say, for instance, you got somebody with an income $1,500, all right? Now, when they come out into the community, they got to spend $400 towards their voucher. They're not accustomed to spending $400 because they're living on $1,500. So if they're not, they need to be able to start training them and having them take their money that they get. A lot of people stay in the shelter because they don't want to pay. They don't want to take none of their money to pay for a spot.
Right.
They're not accustomed to paying rent. So when they're living free and they get their whole $1,500, they're not looking to give up $400. Why should I go there when I can stay here and keep my $400?
Right. I mean, but that goes back to, just kind of, the quality of living that they're accustomed to. You know what I mean?
Nothing's better. Nothing can beat. Nothing beats living outside of a.
We know that because I can't imagine. You understand me? But if that's what right? Let's say when you were growing up, your home conditions weren't great. So a shelter is a step up.
Yes. Yeah, but everybody hasn't just grown generation after generation into a shelter. At some point, they and they know what's what. But I'm saying that it would help them stay out of the court system, right? They don't take their money from their check to make a direct deposit to the landlord. They don't do that. A lot of stuff that I done been to courts. I done been there. I don't do non-payment. I'm going for holdover, right? It's a big difference. People can stay in their homes if there was a better system in place for them to have a little bit more discipline and on their resources they have.
But I mean that also goes back. I mean, we could go all the way back to education and talk about this.
But then Okay, I'm gonna just.
But what we saying, we're not talking about the landlords and stuff like that. What I'm saying is getting too overcrowded.
Right.
Because if you already got people laying and sleeping on the street by the numbers as it is, and then you don't have nowhere to keep putting people when they come in, then you're just going to have more and more of that going on, and you're still not helping the people. I'm not saying turn them away in the streets. There are other states that do not have as many people as New York. Let's send them to different places. You can't send everybody to one state.
But are they saying
there's other states that have space, program, housing?
But are they
sanctuary? You don't want to turn anyone away, but how you gonna where you gonna put all these people?
Lottie,
are they sanctuary states?
Right. Another thing is that asylum seekers, just like the people that come from Ukraine and every place else that you don't hear about, there are people with homes and rooms are getting incentives to bring these people
to have them.
Home. So it's a whole big. We already know the disparity with that comes with that, right? We already know it's about money here.
Well, the thing about it is, I want to get to my next topic with education. But the thing about it is that I see this is because I see how the system works, and I think it needs to be something done about it. Because as the people come in, and not only just the asylum seekers, other people have come in too. When they come in, they get everything: health care, apartments, everything. But the people who have worked all their lives can't even go down there sometime and get food stamps. Or get help that they need. So that's what I'm saying about the system being messed up. I'm not
the people
saying
who funding the system.
How many people you can't take with so many people?
The system's not messed up.
It's the same thing. You bring people to your house. How many people can you have living in your house?
Lottie, let me correct you. The system.
All right, so I want to get to the next.
Before you go on, Lottie, the system's not messed up. The system is working how it's designed to work.
Precisely.
Well, then I think you always say that, so you need to talk to the legislators and get it working the right way. Then, okay?
We all do.
I want to touch on the school system with Chancellor Banks. He wants to change the curriculum about teaching kids, how to read through the phonics. We don't have a lot of time, but I always thought phonics was an excellent program to teach kids, how to read. That's how I taught my daughter to read because it helps them. Pronounce the words, say the words, especially when you come to a word that you don't know what it is. But if you can say it out, it helps you. And the principals are some of the principals, well, most of the principals are against it. So what do you think?
Listen, I feel like my son is 10 and going through the American system here, because, I was born in another country, how they were taught to read was backwards for me. I was like, how are you giving him sight words and he doesn't know how to pronounce the word? So we did a lot of work at home. You know what I mean? I feel like the system as a whole hasn't had an upgrade since, they let us be in the same classroom as white folks. So there's going to be a lot of people who are against this system being implemented because they just didn't go through it themselves. You know what I mean? It's a lot of fear in changing anything. But I feel like it's foundational, though.
Right. I can echo what you say because, going to school and stuff abroad is a little bit different. And even like the penmanship, they don't do here anymore in writing, in certain things, and just the whole process, learning. And it's a little bit different. It's a lot different. So
yeah,
even I guess with this new math that comes, I don't have any more kids in school
every 3 minutes.
But it's really different, and I don't know what the fear is. If this is something that's going to benefit the kids, and is it that they fear to do more work? Is it fearing that I don't understand why we make every effort to
make it better?
Exactly.
Well, surprisingly, the teachers are on board with it. I'm surprised that the teachers are on board with it because that's going to have them doing more work. So I was happy to see that they were on board with it. But the principals, I couldn't understand what their issue was.
I don't know
because first of all, the kids are behind in the reading; they're not on grade level. And I always told the parents, because I'm out of the Board of Ed, so I always tell the parents, you can't leave everything to the teacher in the Board of Ed.
Absolutely.
You also have to teach at home as well. Like I tell them, get those games out of those kids' hand on those tablets all the time, and have them reading more books. If you have your kids reading you know, a lot of books and stuff like that. That's what helps their reading level. But we allow our kids to be on those tablets and on those games playing all the time, and they're not reading enough books as they should be reading to make sure that they're on reading grade level. And that's a lot of the problem going on right now, is because kids are not reading books like they should. I mean, when my daughter was growing up, she had to read, she had to be reading a book every single week. She had to read a book, and then she'd have to read it to me or whatever. Half the time I wasn't even listening because I'm cooking. My mind ain't on it, but I just needed to know that she could read. She was doing it. That was the problem. Because, you know, we all busy, we tired when we come home, but you still got to know where these kids are on this level of reading and they math and stuff like that. I mean, I've never been like that good in math. I can count my check and my winnings and stuff like that, but I'd always get a tutor. My daughter with math, so I didn't know all of that. In today's math, forget it. I was happy my granddaughter with the math one night. I had a migraine by the time I finished. I was like, what are they talking about? Me.
Yeah, my grandkids, my granddaughters, the two twins, they read. They read. Yeah. And they
no, kids can start reading at 3 years old. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I saw this with my own eyes when I was working with a young man who was working there, brought his daughter with him one night, 3 years old, and had her sitting there reading a little book. Now I'm looking at, like, is that little girl actually reading that?
Yes, and that's my granddaughter's been reading.
Of course, if they can get on these phones and work these technology phones at
they could definitely
5 years old, then they can read. They can learn how to read books and stuff like that. So the parents, I want the parents to come out with an outcry if they tried not to implement this program with the finance, because they need to make some noise.
Wasn't there outcry?
Wasn't there outcry into the schools?
But wasn't there outcry when they was trying to extend the school day and end the school year? On top of when they were saying that the kids were failing?
Who said that? Who said that? Because it wasn't me.
All right, then. So
keep them kids in school.
Yes, Kay say your daughter was reading that too, because they can do it because you set it up. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So that way parents know if yours can start reading that too, they can read. So look, our time is up. Our time is up. We have to go. Don't start me talking about the Board of Ed, because you know I get excited when we get there.
We know.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And make sure you go and like us and subscribe to our YouTube page. And as always, we'll see you next time.
Today's show is sponsored by Abu's Bakery. If you have a sweet tooth, stop by Abu's Bakery for some delicious cakes and pies.
Do you like beautiful pictures for your home or your office? Then stop by Space Watch Gallery. They have a large selection of pictures from around the world.
It's Shana.